What's up, y'all? My name is Karina Cook. I am a tax and financial strategist. I'm a CEO, a businesswoman, a faith-led businesswoman at that. What's up, y'all? It's your host, Karina Cook, here with you on Evolving Out Loud. Listen, today we're going to talk about something that I've been seeing and hearing way too often. Yes, I've also experienced it too, so there's no judgment. Listen, we are all doing good work, okay? I'm saying good work. When I say good work, I mean your offer is valid, right? It makes sense, it's solid, you offer everything, but somehow there's clients just slipping through the cracks, okay? And sometimes it's not really, I'm realizing that it's not about your offer, okay? It could be about your infrastructure, okay? And on the back end of your business, it could be silently pushing your clients away, okay? And I'll share a quick moment with y'all about like what woke up me, what woke me up from this, and then dig into what might be happening behind the scenes so that you can understand and see what's actually costing you when it comes to real money, okay? You know about that money. So when it comes to that, and also momentum, because I think that that is really important too. And so, with that being said, let's talk about you can have your best offer. Okay, we can have the best offer in the world, but really, if your systems are sloppy, it's stuff happening in the background, your price is unclear, your back end is messy, you just handling it any old way, you can't track your money, that is silently killing your business. It's killing your reputation. And I'm sure it's making you feel a little bit stressed out. And that becomes very unhealthy at some point. Listen, y'all, we're CEOs around here. So as we start to develop these things, I'm coming from a CEO mindset. And business requires you to have a great infrastructure. It doesn't matter how much money you make, but if your systems is terrible, sis, brother, you got to get it. We have to get it in order. And sometimes you might not even realize it until you're in a position where, you're dealing with a client and it comes up. And that is okay too. Also, it could also happen when you're in growth stage. Maybe a while before you had an okay system, but as you're growing, that needs to develop and grow with you also. So that is what we're going to talk about today. And, you know, this episode, I don't want you guys to feel judged in no episode, but I'm just going to be flat out right honest with y'all, okay? I think that it's going to be about ownership with this episode, okay? Owning that this may be where you are, may have been where you were, but that's not where you're going, okay? And I think that sometimes it's necessary in the beginning to develop what a system can be for you and what these things are going to be when we start to talk more into, because it's not just about systems, y'all. It's about money and being able to have a strategy. Of course, all of this is going to tie into strategy, but I'm talking about pricing and what are you valuing yourself and what you do as a business owner for people, okay? And your offer should be structured in a way that serves you and your client, right? It's not just about your client, it's about your business, but ultimately you're doing this for the client. Okay. And so, with that being said, y'all, I'm going to start off by talking about a story. One, I had a question on here about, have I ever lost a client that I wasn't prepared to receive properly? Right. And I don't think that it wasn't that I wasn't prepared to receive them properly. I look at it like it's either going to work on you or for you. Okay. Nothing is in vain. Okay. We're learning here. And so, with that, I had a client that, listen, y'all, I literally lost a $15,000 deal with one client because my systems wasn't in place. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be real. I thought my systems were in place. I'm a person, I started in 2020, a little bit before 2020, but we'll say 2020 for the sake of this video. This is my fifth year in this business, and I started off with systems. I love to operate with the system anyway. So I was like, I'm starting here. I've always had things processed. But I had a reality check and it didn't feel good. I'm gonna tell you that. So I had a client and it was like, so we did our offer was set, everything was there. We were moving forward, and this was a space that I felt like, whoa, it hit me because we were about to sign, and unfortunately, we didn't move forward with that. Why didn't we move forward? Well, this particular client actually ended up going with a professional because of the process. Now, listen, I'm learning that because I'm outgrowing, my business is it's growing, it's scaling, it's getting better, that my process no longer should be the same as it was before. Now, I'm telling y'all this because before I told you I was set, right? My clients never had an issue. Well, like everything, there's a system to book, there's a system to pay, there's a system to sign the engagement letter. All these things are in place. As I'm growing, though, there and my clients are changing, there is something different that was missing, or there was something different that was missing. And during the process, like I closed the client, she was paid the same day, honestly, or was about to pay the same day, and we ran into some hiccups of receiving the payment. Now, a lot of it came from my bank on my end, and I'm still merging some of my old business accounts to my new business accounts. And some of my clients know because I've been telling them that I'm transitioning from one business to another and separating everything. Now it's been separated, guys. I'm not that tax professional who commingles. However, I do have more than one business. So I started off with Easy Money Tax, and now I'm going into Sage Wealth Consulting. So now I'm separating what each business does, basically. And so she just happened to be caught up in that. And something happened in the midst of it. And this was a eye opener for me because I this client, was the ideal client, right? And I literally lost the ideal client because of my back systems. And it was easier for her, even with this fee breakdown of me not taking the payment right away and leaving it in the client's hand to come back a week later. That did not serve either of us. Okay. And when that happened, I realized, holy smokes. Yes, holy smokes. um, something, my stuff, Karina, you have to get things implemented better. Now, let me tell you, I take a step back and I realize, okay, my stuff it needs to grow with me. Okay. And in the process, what I've been doing is I have a team who is now helping me get this process to where it needs to be at the level that I am at now. And I've been looking for a team. I've been looking for systems that are going to sustain where I'm going. And I just realized that, okay, what do I do in the back end? Now, I'm gonna take this back and tell y'all like one, because I want to get into pricing with this, okay? In a minute. This was a thing where I felt like the client experience wasn't what I wanted it to be. And you guys, I've been having like I haven't had complaints, okay? But it made me think about if I was a person getting this service, what would I have wanted the process to be like? Okay. I lost this client to a bigger end firm, and they had a bigger team. they closed the deal swiftly that day, and it was just different. So my question, um, and I'm gonna take that back. I don't know if they closed it that day, but I know that she was going with them. Okay, so my thing is, even when we take payments, okay, because this is going to get into something, I want to talk about payments. How are you guys taking the payments? Because my normal process is I do not like taking payments over the phone. I've tried it before and it's just not the thing I like. And I could be doing this because I just don't like that. I do not like taking or giving my information over the phone. I do not like that process, especially if it's salesy, because I feel like it's a little bit more aggressive. And I understand the psychology of this because I target consumers and people who are buying. So I understand the psychology of doing it, which makes me feel even more reluctant to do it. Now, one of my partners said, "Well, this is a thing that you should implement. We needed to take the payment over the phone." And I'm like, I don't like it. And I hear it a lot. I hear it very often. And that is one of my questions to you guys. Do you take payments over the phone when you're closing a deal? And if you do not, do you feel that that lets the client slip through and that you can lose the client? I've never had an issue before. I've always, sent the engagement letter and went over it with them and had them paid after we got off the phone and days later. It hasn't been an issue until this one time, which again, systems, processes, is this something that I am outgrowing where I need that? Now, I will say that in this process, our team is going through getting someone to help us with our calls, because you guys, I've done hundreds and hundreds of calls over the last 5 years, and I'm over that. Okay. I think that my job is well spent. I believe that my job is well spent serving others, using my brain and using my voice to be able to help people not be on the phones. And, I'm not knocking anyone who is, but I started there and I don't want to continue to do that unless it's a special case. So, my layer of defense will be my team being able to take over that process for me so that I no longer have to do that, right? And that my process allows for them to be able, if I implement this, to take the payments over the phone. I'm interested in knowing what you guys think. So, during this, please let me know in the comments what y'all think about this, because this is something that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I understand how it can be very helpful in closing the clients that you're looking to close. Now, um, I believe, so this was another thing. I believe that pricing is a thing that has come up over time. And I started to increase my fees, and I was like, listen, this is something that I must do. One, because the value that I bring, it's not what I'm worth. It's literally the value. You guys, I'm saving people thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars on taxes per year, tens of thousands per year. And I'm helping them, one, relieve stress, okay, have a better life, mental clarity, save more money, use this money to enhance their lifestyle, to help them build wealth and create a legacy, help a lot of areas that they were struggling in or they just didn't know how to do. And so I had to raise my price, and I had to think of pricing more spiritually than anything. Okay. And I think this is important because I think we miss out on really understanding, one, that it's a spiritual thing, but it's also a strategic thing. Okay. What you charge and what I've charged reflects what you believe in. And I found this out, and I love Myron Golden. I've taken his challenge, and through the time of me growing in business, I've also noticed this is that you want to operate in abundance and not lack. And I've talked about this over and over again. Abundance and not lack, not scarcity. And you want to put yourself in a position that shows the authority and shows what you believe in as an individual. And when you start to charge lower than what the value truly is, you become disvalued, if that's a word. You become a commodity. And no one values someone who undervalues their service, not themselves per se. I'm talking about their service. There's times where I've charged clients in the beginning stage, oh, just give me, $500. And they're like, ick, 500? That's a little low. Now, I'll give you, now when you hear that, automatically to me, it's demeaning because it makes me feel low. Like I should have charged them more. I should have charged them this. And when I got the work, it actually was more than I even anticipated. Now I don't even want to do the work. There's a lot that comes behind pricing, but I truly believe that when you put yourself in a position to structure your fees, structure your price, structure the investment according to spiritual, how you feel, look at your level of conviction, look at strategically what you're doing with the client, then you'll put yourself in a position for both of y'all to win. I'm always talking about either side. It's not just one side. Okay? It's just not for you to win. The fee they should be getting 10 times the value, 5 to 10 times the value. Okay? If I'm saving somebody $150,000 in taxes, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not charging $1,500. Okay, that's just absurd. I will be charging them according to the value that I'm presenting. And the value is not just what they're saving, the value is their health. The value is what they get to do with the money. The value is how many years are they going to be able to use this if I do give this to them. This is years of training, of professional development, of me staying afloat, of the strategies of my CE, continuing education, for me to, for me building relationships, for me staying late at night, for me having expenses. I am a business owner. And this is how I operate. So that is like one of the things that I feel is very important. Also to keep in mind, you guys, you have to think about pricing. It's about, because when we start to talk about taxes, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. You charge somebody, you don't get that all the time, right? You charge somebody, let's say $15,000, you're paying tax on that. Okay. And think of it like that. Pricing your fees and what you get is not what you're getting, is what you keep, because you have expenses, you have overhead cost, you have taxes, you have your lifestyle. Okay, those are things that are going to also play into what you're charging. And some people don't know. And if you're one of those people who don't know, this is a time to take inventory on what it costs for you to do business. Okay. What does it cost for your team? How many hours are they actually putting in for you to actually recoup the money back? How much time are you putting into this service or product for this person? What's the cost of goods sold for it? And what is taxes on overall? What is the expenses for me, educating and software and development, all these things? What is that for you to operate in your business? And what would the profit be? Also, what percentage of profit will you actually want to keep in your business? Because we got to think, y'all. some business, I'm say some entrepreneurs out there, you take the income in, especially if you're not on a salary. Hopefully, you guys are on a salary. If you're not on a salary, you need a tax strategist. But if you are taking income in, that income is not yours, baby. We have to realize that in our business, when we get money, that money is not ours yet. That money gets distributed in so many different ways, and you make the money, but you don't take it all out of your business. Okay, some of it stays. It's not like you make 15, you should take 15. No. You make 15, you take a percentage of that because some of it's going to operating expenses, some of it is going to taxes, all these areas I had just mentioned. And so that is something to keep in mind as you're starting to figure out what is the best fee or investment that I can charge someone to work with me with my offer. What's the outcome that I'm actually providing them? What relationship will they be having with me? How close will they be to me in proximity? How much am I giving this person? And what is the value that I'm giving them? And it should be a 10x value. Okay. I mean, I know for me on my business, that's how I operate as far as how much the value is going to be for them and how much time am I going to spend giving them this. And, I think that I don't really, I have an hourly rate, and that hourly rate is not for everything though. I there's some things that just go beyond my time or beyond that hourly rate that just doesn't make sense for me to charge hourly for. Okay, because I can get something done really quick sometimes, and I have to think about how that value is going to be perceived than to charge my hourly rate for that. Okay, and so that is one of the things I really thought was really important, and I love that. I love that you get to go through this process and you get to go through experience, because the thing is people want to scale to seven figures and do it in a way where it's like, okay, but one, are your systems set up? Two, are your offers set up where the investment to work with you makes sense to actually get there? Are your offers set up in the investment and fees that it takes to work with you for you to get there? Okay. Um, and I think that, I think that we have to think when we talk about scarcity, okay? We talk about scarcity and pricing and hoping that they say yes and thinking that in this process is going to be all fine because I'm just going to throw a number out. That's not baby. I'm sorry to tell you guys, that's not it, okay? Um and I had something here that says don't set prices based on guilt or assumption. And I love that. One of the things that I used to do is I used to base that off of how I used to think about people's pockets too much, what they can afford. And if I do this, they may not be able to afford it, or it was just thinking about them too much, about what they're willing to pay for something. And what their household, because let me tell you, there's a time where I I mean, there's many of times where I really wanted to advance my career and I really needed the structure and the system and the team behind me. I didn't care about the price at a point. If they can articulate the value to me, then I'm like, okay. I wasn't even in scarcity mode at that point, y'all. I was like, where do I sign? I'm gonna make this happen. I don't care if I have to put a credit card down on it. I just didn't care because that credit card payment, it was going to something that was going to actually yield me more money. It was good debt to have because I knew that I was going to be able to pay this off very quickly because I put myself in a position to get a return on investment because I knew I was going to do the work. I just needed the answers for stuff that I didn't have the answers to. And so in that mode, I didn't operate out of scarcity. or lack. I was like, this money is going to come back to me. And I think about the times that that has happened. And I'm like, okay, if I decide to charge somebody $15,000 for the value that they're going to get from it, mind you, I'm telling you these huge numbers because, and that's not even huge compared to what some other people charge. But that price is minimal. Okay. But these are, I'm charging this fee based on the outcome that the person's gonna get. But also, sometimes these people they're wanting me to charge this premium price to them because it shows that I have the knowledge and the authority and the value that they're looking for because these are high income earners. So that's another thing, is to think about who you're actually targeting, who your audience is. Of course, if I'm telling somebody who really does not have much that I'm charging them this, that may be something that it draws them back. And I have to think about, is that even the client that I want? Because then I actually feel like it's unfair for me to pitch this to them anyway from the beginning. So a lot of the times that's us figuring out what the offer is. But in this video, it's to talk about, you have your offer. It's just your fees and your pricing and the investment to work with you is not where it should be. The systems is not where it should be. And that's important to think about, to conceptualize, because that wasn't right. And also, when I think about this story that I told, one of the things that it made me think about is that my value was there. Yeah, it wasn't that my value was there. It's just my structure wasn't where my value was. Okay? The structure was not there where the value could have been. Right? So I think that is something to consider. It's something to really ponder about like, how does this work for you? And also, that it doesn't account for taxes, right? And I've covered that it doesn't account for taxes, that you have to account for this portion. You know, that's a whole nother story though. So I encourage you to audit your business. Audit what it feels like to work with you. What does it feel like for the clients, from the client's perspective and point of view? And what's the process to get this to you from A to Z? I love the process A to Z. Y'all gonna hear me say it all the time because you need to understand how easy it is to work with you. And in this lesson, I've learned that is how easy. I need to make it easy for people to work with me. So after they've said yes, I need to make it easy. How easy to actually is it to work with you? What's their experience like? It should be right after you've signed with them or right after they said yes. It should be easy peasy for them. Okay. And also get clear on what you're selling. Okay. That's also going to be important, to get clear and develop what it is you're selling so that you can articulate that in the level of value that it's going to bring, the perceived value that the client sees from your end, from your perspective, and price it accordingly to that, to the value that you're bringing to this person. And then create a process and rebuild the system that allows people to stay with you, not just buy. Because the point of a relationship is retention. Okay. Not just retention to sell, but like having a client where there's just a quick buy is okay. Like where's a strategy or what's the process that I can build that help them stay with me long term, help them to continue to be a client with me, not just buying something and dipping. Okay. And then acknowledge where it went wrong in the first step of scaling. Okay. This is data, y'all. It's fine. It's data. We go through things. Nothing is going to be perfect. We're going to outgrow systems. Company outgrows systems. And it's important to not just want to scale, because people just want to scale, scale, scale. I want to scale. But their systems, it's not ready to do that. Okay. Ease yourself into it, because the people that you hear from who actually scale pretty fast, they will tell you that they wish they had systems in place to do so. Because now you get an influx of clients, you get people coming in, the service may become bad. Now you're looking to get help and partnerships while you're scaling, which is way harder because the demand that you're getting, the outtake should be, or the output should be timely. It should be quality. And imagine having to go through this process of building a system, infrastructure, making sure your fees are where they should be in the process of scaling. So those are some questions and things I want you to think about that we talked about, and how you can actually leverage this but get better in your systems and processes so that it benefits both you and the client, and it serves you guys to the best that it can possibly serve you guys. And then everybody wins. Okay? Nobody's happy when there's just chaos everywhere. And so that is the end of this session in Evolving Out Loud. And I hope you guys got something from this and that you can implement something that we've talked about today, or just think about how this can affect you. So until next time, we are evolving, and we are evolving out loud. Exciting to say the least, and I'm happy that I'm doing it with you guys. Until next time, I love y'all, and welcome to Evolving Out Loud.